All right, so let's return back to our vehicle object that we were making before. Now, before we weren't passing anything into it. It was totally empty, and we were just putting on these move and stop properties onto the prototype. So, what I'm doing here is it's called making a constructor. So it's kind of like most other functions where you pass in some parameters, except instead we're going to set um, different properties on the vehicle object based on what's passed in. So we're going to have a property called condition that's going to be populated by whatever is in the condition parameter. And same for capacity, wheels, model, and so on. So here I've created three different instances of vehicle. Remember, vehicle um, as a prototype is pretty much just a template. It just kind of like saves space and time so I don't have to create a bunch of object literals over and over and over again. So let's go and look and see what this created. Alright, so we've got our three variables. Remember we've got bike, car, and truck. Now, bike, I created a vehicle where I passed in a condition of new, a capacity of 1, wheels of 2, and the model of Bikeinator. And then for car, used 5, 4, Chevy Malibu, so on and so forth. So each of these is its own separate object, even though they all used the vehicle prototype to be created. However, we often want to, for example, with vehicles, there are different families of vehicles that have a lot of common properties. So what we're actually going to do is I'm going to show you a couple of ways that we can make some useful tools out of prototypes. So here I created a new type of object called bike. Remember, we capitalize the first letter of each new type of object we make with prototypes. So with bikes, most bikes only accept one person. So we're going to assume that the capacity is 1. And so we're not going to pass in capacity. We're not going to pass in wheels because a bicycle by definition has by 2 wheels. We will pass in the model, and we'll also pass in another um, another parameter called gears. How many gears does this bike have? Is it a 10 gear or a 10 speed bike? Or is it a 1 or is it a 7? Now, notice how here I'm saying vehicle.call. Now, this is kind of a shortcut. So instead of having to say this dot condition is condition, this dot capacity is capacity all over again, I'm going to say, you know what? I already did this up here in vehicle. So I'm going to already call what I did in vehicle. Now, when you use the .call function on prototypes, the very first parameter you always pass is this, because you're going to pass in whatever is in bike right now. So I'm going to pass in this, and then for the condition, I'm going to pass in the condition that I was passed, and then for capacity, I'm going to pass in 1. For wheels, I'm going to pass in 2. For the model, I'm going to pass in the same model that I was passed. Then after the vehicle constructor has done everything that I want it to do for me, I'm also going to slap on that this dot gears is the number of gears that were passed in. Now, I'm also going to steal the prototype from vehicles so I don't have to rewrite move and stop all over again. However, I do want to rewrite move because bikes don't go vroom normally. So instead, it's going to squeak because it's got squeaky wheels. So I'm going to create a new bike called my bike, and it's going to have a condition of old and a model of target or target special. It's going to have 67 gears. It's a very, very fancy bike. So let's actually block out the rest of this, and let's go see what happens. So if you'll notice down here, I said mybike.move. If you'll remember, move is the function that we overwrote, where it used to say vroom, and now instead we want to say squeak. And squeak it did. So it's got a capacity of 1, condition of old, gear 67, model TRJ special, wheels 2. So let's go and make a car. Now with cars, I'm also going to steal the constructor of vehicle for my car constructor. So remember, the first thing we always pass in is this. I'm going to pass in the condition, the capacity. I'm going to, oh, this is curious. So instead, I'm going to say that capacity is always going to be 4. And let's actually make that 5. And actually cancel that. I'm crazy. So, passing condition, the capacity, and then for the number of wheels, I'm going to pass in 4. I'm going to assume that's all cars have 4 wheels. Bad assumption, but I'm going to make it. And then for the model, I'm going to pass in whatever model I was passed. So after the vehicle constructor does all my work for me, I'm also going to tag on the miles per gallon onto my car. All right. So I'm then going to create my own car. It's going to be a new car. And it's going to seat 5. It's going to be a Malibu, and it's going to have 32 miles per gallon. And I'm going to let the move function be the same one that's already set up. So it should go vroom. All right, and it went vroom. All right, now we're going to make a commercial truck, an 18-wheeler. So this one is actually, instead of inheriting the vehicle constructor, it's actually going to inherit the car constructor. And so remember, the first thing we pass in whenever we use call is we're going to pass in this, which is this object. And we're going to pass in the condition, the capacity, the model, the miles per gallon. And after the car constructor takes care of all that for us, we're going to set the number of wheels on this particular type of car, which is actually a commercial truck, to be 18. So we're overriding the default of 4 that happens in the car constructor. So we're going to use the car prototype as well. Actually, the way we're going to do this is we're going to say new car. And that's the correct way to do it. And then we're going to overwrite the move function to be clunk. And then we're also going to add a whole nother new function that doesn't exist in any other ones called open door. Now there's something cool you can do with prototypes where you can actually go and steal functions from other unrelated objects that you're not inheriting from. So commercial truck doesn't inherit from bike. However, it sees its move function. It says, you know what, I kind of like to use that because that squeak sound is exactly the same sound that my door makes whenever I open it. So what you do is you just say the name of the type of object you want to steal it from, then you say about prototype, and the name of the function, and then you use the call function all over again, just like we do here in our constructor. And in this case, since there are no parameters we need to pass, we just put in this, which is always required. And then we create our new truck, which is a commercial truck that's used. It's got 2 capacity. Its model is really big truck, very fancy name. It's got 26 miles per gallon. So then we're going to call mytruck.move and mytruck.openDoor. Alright, so my truck.move went clunk, and my truck.openDoor went squeak, just the way it was supposed to. Now for your challenge, it's a little bit more open-ended. I want you to go and find some other relationship in the world that you can uh, map out using prototypes. You can use people, you can use Pokemon, you can use animals, whatever you want. The only requirements are that you do go a little hierarchical, where you have different types of objects inheriting from other types and stealing their constructors in the same way that we've done here. And also, I want you to steal at least one function from another unrelated object, the same way we did here with bike. All right, and then show those to us in class, and we'll talk through them.